So apparently, we're supposed to believe Meghan Markle just casually hopped on a commercial flight, ditched the private jet life, handed out handwritten notes to the flight crew like some Hallmark movie queen, and quietly blended in like any regular traveler. That's the fairy tale page 6 tried to sell us. And let me tell you, it's got more holes than Swiss cheese. Because guess what? The flight attendant who allegedly had this magical Marl moment is now walking it all back, saying she didn't even see Meghan on the flight. You heard that right. Let's break this all down before our collective IQ drops. The initial story was this glowing fluff piece. Meghan, ever the graceful Duchess, flying commercial, complimenting nails, giving heartfelt letters to the staff. Even the wording was suspiciously dreamy, like it was written by a PR intern who binge-watched The Crown one too many times. The whole thing screamed setup, and not even a subtle one. Then comes the real kicker. The so-called flight attendant who was quoted gushing about Meghan has now admitted to a French outlet that, wait for it, she never actually saw Meghan on the flight. So why would anyone do this? Why would a flight attendant go along with a story like that if it wasn't true? Meghan traveling in commercial, disclosing private passenger information on TikTok, no less? But American Airlines' directives on passenger identities are ironclad. So unless this was carefully planned and confirmed as a PR stunt, the flight attendant in question 100% knows she's getting fired. Well, there's growing speculation she might have been put up to it. And this is where things get creepy. Word is Meghan herself might have orchestrated this little PR stunt. And if that's true, it means she handed a woman a handwritten note and basically told her, hey, tell the world I'm sweet and down to earth. All right, that's not just weird. That's Princess Diana cosplay levels of weird. And speaking of Diana, you'll never guess what Meghan's been mimicking again. The handwritten notes. Diana was known for sending personal, elegant thank you notes, something the public adored her for. And now here's Meghan trying to score the same points by doing what looks like a carbon copy routine. It's like she can't help herself, whether it's wardrobe choices, photo ops, or now this letter on a plane situation. She just keeps channeling the ghost of Diana, like she's auditioning for a biopic. But here's what really gives the whole thing away. No one saw her. There were no selfies, no blurry airport shots, no fan videos, nothing. Think about that. Meghan Markle, the same woman who had paparazzi coincidentally show up at a remote dog rescue visit, is now somehow invisible on a commercial flight. She's not exactly flying under the radar, no matter how much her team tries to paint her as humble and misunderstood. If she really boarded that plane, you'd better believe someone would have snapped a photo. That's just the world we live in. Oh, and the icing on the ridiculous cake. Page 6 used a photo from 2016 to sell the story. You read that right. They slipped in a picture of Meghan getting off a plane from way back when and didn't even label it properly. No disclaimer, no mention of it being old, just tossed it in there like we wouldn't notice. But the internet noticed, and now people are furious, accusing them of gaslighting the public with fake imagery. It's classic media misdirection, and it's not working anymore. So now the question is, why? Why go through all this effort for such a poorly executed lie? What was the goal? If this was supposed to be a PR win, it backfired in spectacular fashion. And honestly, it's kind of embarrassing at this point. But hey, that's just part 1. Buckle up. The more you peel back the layers on this story, the more bizarre it gets. Let's talk about this flight again. Not just the lack of photos or the recycled images, but the actual logistics. We're supposed to believe Meghan Markle, who famously obsesses over privacy and security, flew completely alone? No bodyguards, no staff, just her and some handwritten notes like she's backpacking through Europe? Since when does a high-profile figure like Meghan step onto a New York flight solo without even a blurry shot from a fellow passenger? That part doesn't add up. And if it had happened, it would have been plastered all over the Daily Mail in 5 different angles. Instead, the only narrative came from this suddenly silent flight attendant who now wishes she'd kept her mouth shut. Sources say she's been confiding to French contacts, quietly walking back every detail, saying she never even saw Meghan on board. The woman now reportedly regrets speaking up at all. Probably didn't expect the internet to dissect her story frame by frame like it's a true crime documentary. But here's the kicker. Page 6 didn't care. They ran with it anyway, headline blazing, acting like they just uncovered a royal miracle. Meghan's handwritten note goes viral. Goes viral where? Twitter? Instagram? TikTok? Because none of us saw it. There's no photo of the note, not a single image of Meghan at the gate, walking through TSA, or even sitting on the plane. You can't tell me the woman who curated her own royal wedding wouldn't make sure that even her humble commercial flight had a camera-ready moment. And don't forget, this is the same person who once tipped off photographers about her own whereabouts while pretending to be caught off guard. There's a long pattern of staged moments dressed up as spontaneity. Remember the photos of her supposedly being harassed by paparazzi in New York, only to later discover that her team had given those photographers a heads up? Yeah, that's the level we're dealing with. And let's not even get started on the recycled PR tactics. This whole story feels like it was lifted straight out of a 2018 press release. The humble Duchess flies commercial trope has been played to death. We've seen it before. The only thing different this time was the bizarre inclusion of that cringe moment when the flight attendant couldn't even pronounce Duchess of Sussex correctly. That clip made the rounds, and instead of giving Meghan a soft, glowing moment, it turned into a parody. You've got someone calling her the Queen. No, wait, the Princess. No, Duchess. Fumbling through titles like they were guessing random words. Then complimenting her nails, which is ironic because if this was a real flight attendant, she'd know long nails are a no-go in flight safety protocol. They deal with emergency doors, serve food, and operate under strict grooming standards. But apparently, in this fairy tale, everyone's too dazzled by the Duchess's manicure to care about regulations. Even more suspicious is the timing of all this. Why now? Meghan hasn't exactly been in the headlines for anything positive lately. Her podcast fizzled, her Netflix projects aren't making waves, and public opinion is, let's just say, chilly. So suddenly a feel-good story about her flying commercial pops up right when she needs some image rehab. It's like clockwork, and yet it's so sloppily done. No visuals, no proof, no consistency. Just a half-baked story, a backtracking source, and recycled media assets from nearly a decade ago. The effort is obvious, the execution not so much. What really blows this whole thing wide open is how easily it all falls apart under basic scrutiny. Take the timeline, for example. The flight supposedly happened recently, right? Then why does Page 6, an outlet with full access to current paparazzi photos, use a 2016 image of Meghan to prop up the story? A picture where she's clearly being escorted by security at a different airport during a totally unrelated time in her life? That's not just lazy journalism, that's deliberate misdirection. The caption conveniently leaves out the date as if readers wouldn't notice. But they did, and once the internet caught wind of it, people started asking the real questions. If she truly flew commercial, where are the witnesses? This is Meghan Markle we're talking about. Not exactly a background character. There would have been a trail, airport staff, fans, flight manifest records, something. But there's radio silence from every angle. Not a single credible sighting. Just one woman's shaky story. And now even she doesn't stand by it. Then there's the deeper question. What's the end game? Meghan's not stupid. Neither is her team. They know how fast misinformation spreads and how hard it is to walk back once it's out there. That's probably the whole point. Drop a sweet little story into the media bloodstream, let it go viral, and by the time it's debunked, it's already done the PR job. Most people won't bother checking the facts. They'll just remember the headline. Meghan flies commercial like a normal person. Job done. But that strategy only works when the illusion holds, and this one broke faster than a dollar store teacup. The public caught on, the timeline didn't make sense, and now even loyal royal watchers are raising eyebrows. It's not just the usual critics anymore. It's people who used to defend her. They're asking why she keeps pulling these stunts, why everything feels so scripted, why even a simple flight has to be turned into a spectacle with a moral message. And it gets even weirder. The same article that painted Meghan as this humble jet-setter also subtly threw Harry under the bus. Where was he if she was on a solo trip? Why wasn't he with her? Why no mention of him at all? It's almost like the story was crafted specifically to separate her image from his. And considering all the recent rumors about him living part-time in another city, about their growing distance, it doesn't take much to see how that narrative benefits her. Plus, let's talk about those kids. Meghan claims she reads to them over email when she travels. Email? Who reads bedtime stories via email unless they're not physically with the children? And who exactly are the kids with, if not Harry? That Drew Barrymore interview slip-up, where she awkwardly said, "Whoever's with them, or Papa," felt like a rare unscripted moment, and it raised serious questions. If she's always away, and Harry's not around either, who's actually raising those kids? At this point, the mystery isn't just about a fake flight. It's about the growing cracks in the entire narrative. The flight, the photos, the marriage, the motherhood, it's all being micromanaged for optics. But people can tell when something's off. The overcorrections, the staged wholesomeness, the weird media patterns. It's not authentic anymore if it ever was. Whatever Meghan's trying to prove, it's not working. The public's patience is thinning, and no amount of staged notes or phantom flights is going to fix that. If anything, it's just making it all worse.